What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man. I'm going to talk about the welterweight division. I'm going to talk about Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, and Keith Thurman, and the ratings for Ring Magazine. As we know, a guy that writes for Ring Magazine, Steve Kim, had a little bit of issue with YouTube boxing channels. So, I've had my mind on the ring a little bit lately. And so some news came out today. I had seen it before, but there was an article that came out specifically about it where Ring Magazine has Keith Thurman ranked as the number one welterweight. And I thought that was really interesting until I mean, there's an argument can be made for that. Not a very good one, but there can be one. But I'm trying to understand, how do you jive that with the pound for pound ratings? How does that work? How do you have, like, Terrence Crawford? First of all, this pound for pound list on Ring Magazine, I don't understand what they're doing. It is a what do you call it? It's a not theoretically, it's an opinion, it's subjective. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a subjective determination, pound for pound, right? But they've got Sergey Kovalev at number 8. They got Sergey Kovalev at number 8. Sergey Kovalev got knocked out and had back-to-back losses to a guy that was smaller than him. So I don't understand how you can keep him at the pound for pound number 1 spot. But as far as it goes with Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, how is it exactly that two guys in the same weight class that are the same size, you can have Keith Thurman nowhere in the top 10 pound for pound, but you can have Errol Spence at number 7, but you have Keith Thurman as the number 1 welterweight and Errol Spence Jr. is the number 2 welterweight. How does that work? How does that work? Now, Terrence Crawford, there's some logic. There's some logic to that, where they would have Terrence Crawford at number 3 pound for pound. I mean, well, to me, I don't understand the logic of having Terrence Crawford number 3 pound for pound underneath Gennady Golovkin and Vasyl Lomachenko. I don't understand that. But I can understand the theory that Terrence Crawford fought at 135. He fought at 140. Now he's got a belt at 147. So consequently, he's a smaller guy and he's won divisions in multiple weight classes. Consequently, he should be a pound for pound guy over somebody who might be in the same weight class than he is, but is the naturally pound for pound bigger guy. But for two guys that fought their entire career at welterweight, for you to have one in the top 10 pound for pound and not have the other one in the top 10 pound for pound, but you rank the guy that's not in the top 10 pound for pound higher than the guy that is, that's like saying, yeah, we think Errol Spence Jr. is a better fighter than all but 6 other boxers in boxing. Or better yet, yes, we think Terrence Crawford is a better fighter than Keith Thurman is, but we just think that Keith Thurman is a better welterweight. Wait, huh? Keith Thurman is a welterweight. Errol Spence Jr. is a welterweight. But you think that Errol Spence Jr. is the better fighter, but you think Keith Thurman is the better welterweight? I'm very interested to hear in the comment section the logic behind that. I mean, it's already tough for me to see how a guy in Gennady Golovkin, who's only been at one welterweight in one weight class and is coming off of a draw against a guy that was pretty much moving up in weight. He got a draw against a smaller guy. He's fought 2 guys outside of his weight class in his last 3 of the last 4 guys he's fought have all come from a weight class lower than him. He's never fought outside. He's never fought a smaller guy. He's always been the bigger. Every time I've seen him in the ring, with the exception of Danny Garcia, of maybe Daniel Jacobs, has been the bigger guy. So I mean, I don't understand him being there at all. I mean, I can maybe maybe you could have him in there, but not at number one. Vasily Lomachenko, I could see why people would say the Lomachenko, because Lomachenko's moved up 3 weight classes. He's won a division. He's won belts in 3 weight classes. And so, but he's lost. And he lost at the smallest weight class that he's fought at. But still, he's a terrific fighter. He's a terrific boxer. So I have him at my number 3. I mean, personally, I have Errol Spence number 1. I have Vasily Lomachenko number 2. And after that, I could go with a Mikey. I could go with a Mikey Garcia. I could go with other, but that just makes no sense to me. Why you could have Keith Thurman as the number 1 welterweight and not have Keith Thurman in your top 10 pound for pound. For that to make sense to me, Keith Thurman would have to be, you'd have to maybe replace Keith Thurman with, maybe replace the monster who they have the number 5, who has they have a number 5 with Keith Thurman. Because if Keith Thurman is a better welterweight than Errol Spence Jr. is, then he should be ranked higher than him in the pound for pound listings of the same organization. So, I know there's a lot of flaws. There's a lot of flaws with these pound for pound lists, and they are subjective. But at the same time, when you're listing your top welterweights, I don't see how you would have a different criteria for people from your best fighter in the weight division if these guys are basically the same size and fighting and boxing the same weight division. But, it is what it is, man. And I think at the end of it, man, the reason I think that they do this is because the pound for pound title and all that stuff is a marketing ploy. It's a way, I've always thought, and I do think, that it's pretty much just a way to try to sell certain boxers and get them, when you introduce them, on in news articles, or when you introduce them into boxing matches and they can't stand on their own accolades, you try to throw some type of pound for pound rating on there. At least that's what I believe with everybody who's below number 1. Right? But when you're talking about the top welterweight, you really can't even give Keith Thurman that. Because Keith Thurman now only has 1 of the belts. Keith Thurman, the argument could have been that Keith Thurman owes 2 belts. But he doesn't hold 2 belts anymore. He owns 1. And he relinquished it. And the guy is walking up on 2 years without having gotten to the ring. And I do believe that, and I have to go back and do the research on this. My recollection was when Andre Ward went inactive, that they removed Andre Ward from pound for pound lists. They removed him from all of that type of stuff just based on the fact that he had been inactive. And that was, God, dog, I think that's how Gennady Golovkin got up there. But they got Canelo Alvarez. They've taken Canelo Alvarez clean out of it. How exactly you take Canelo Alvarez out of that and you leave Gennady Golovkin in there after they had a draw? I don't get. How do you have Canelo Alvarez not in the top 10 pound for pound, but you have a bigger guy that he drew with in it? So, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm appreciating, the fact that they've got Errol Spence very high in the pound for pound list. They got him at number 7. At least they respect him enough to put him ahead of Sergey Kovalev. But Sergey Kovalev has no business in it. If Keith Thurman's not in it, Sergey Kovalev doesn't deserve to be in it. If they don't have, man, I can think of several guys that should be in here in their top 10 before Sergey Kovalev is. But at least I like that they have Alexander Usyk creeping up in here with 14 wins. Then the other beef that I have with these guys, you got people coming in. You got 3 guys in the top 10 pound for pound that have less than 20 bouts. You have 2 guys that have less than 15 and 1 guy that has less than that has 16. No way has, or Monster, because I always butcher Monster's name. Monster's 16-0. You have Alexander Usyk that's 14-0, and you have Vasyl Lomachenko that's 11-1-0. I don't mind the Vasyl Lomachenko thing, man, honestly, because when he fought Linares and he beat Linares, even though I don't think Linares was the best, I thought he was the weakest guy at 135 pounds. He does have championships in multiple divisions. I like Usyk. Usyk has several belts, but if you're gonna think Usyk has 2 belts, right? If Usyk has 2 belts and he's 14-0, then why isn't Jarrett Hurd in here? Because Jarrett Hurd has 2 belts, and I do believe Jarrett Hurd has more wins, and Jarrett Hurd beat, from my understanding, Jarrett Hurd beat better competition at this point in time than Alexander Usyk has. Alexander Usyk's a guy that fought his career. I believe he was he was definitely a heavyweight in the Olympics. I don't think he was super heavyweight. I know he beat Joe Joyce in the World Boxing Super Series, not the World Boxing Super Series, the Super Series of World Series of Boxing. That's what it is, the WBS, the World Series of Boxing. But it's just kind of interesting stuff, man, because I don't see why Usyk would be in here and Jarrett Hurd's not in here, or why Monster's in here and Jarrett Hurd's not in here. Jarrett Hurd beat Islandi Lara, who was a guy that I think should be considered in the top, a top pound for pound guy, and he beat Austin Trout. Austin Trout, that is just an absolute. Dude has been a ring warrior, man. He just gave a good bout to Jermell Charlo. So, these guys' ratings are whatever they are, man. But anyway, it is what it is. I just thought I'd make that observation on the fact that Keith Thurman somehow is ranked the number 1 welterweight, though he hasn't fought in 2 years, over Errol Spence, but yet Errol Spence is on the pound for pound list for ring, and Keith Thurman isn't. I don't understand it. But that's why another point, man, why unification is so important. Because all of this, this is my reasoning for this is my reasoning for that. One thing that if after Usyk faces Gassiev, and I do believe that's somebody else, isn't Murat Gassiev? Murat Gassiev is the IBF and the WBA super champion. He's got more bouts than Usyk. He's got the same number of belts as Usyk. Why isn't Murat Gassiev on there? And I do believe also the Murat that I don't know. I think maybe Gassiev at a certain point in time had fought at heavyweight, but they're also basically the same size, man. So, I don't get it, man. I don't get the rhyme. It seems almost there's no rhyme and reason to what these guys at Ring are doing, other than maybe that, the promoters that they like have good relationships with them, and they're willing to give them that, that little bit of extra media bounce by putting them up there. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.